What happens when one of the biggest stars in the WNBA leaves a game early with an injury, and her coach immediately calls out the opposing team for what she describes as cheap shots? That's exactly the conversation surrounding the Indiana Fever's recent loss to the Phoenix Mercury. And while emotions are running high, there's an important question that goes beyond a single game. Is this really about Caitlin Clark being targeted, or is it part of a larger debate about physical play, officiating consistency, and player protection in the WNBA? Let's break down what actually happened, what has been confirmed, and why fans across the basketball world are still talking about it. The controversy began during Indiana's close loss to Phoenix, a game that was already carrying extra tension because of the physical nature of recent matchups between these two teams. During the contest, Caitlin Clark was involved in multiple hard contact situations that quickly became the focus of post-game discussions. One of the most talked about moments came during a loose ball scramble in the second quarter. Video clips that circulated online appeared to show Phoenix star Alyssa Thomas making contact with Clark while both players were battling for possession. No foul was called on the play, and the sequence immediately became a major topic after the game. According to post-game reports, Fever head coach Stephanie White was extremely frustrated that officials did not penalize the action. Later in the game, Clark was also involved in another play where she landed awkwardly after a three-point attempt. Officials reviewed the sequence but chose not to upgrade the foul to a more serious penalty. White cited that play as another example of what she viewed as inadequate officiating. Adding to the concern, Clark eventually exited the game because of a back issue and did not return. The Fever later confirmed the back injury, though White stopped short of directly connecting the injury to any specific incident during the game. Now, this is where the story becomes more interesting. The confirmed fact is that Stephanie White strongly criticized the officiating after the game. She described some of the uncalled contact against Clark as egregious and absolutely unacceptable. Those comments were made publicly and have been widely reported. However, whether the contact should have resulted in fouls, technicals, or more severe penalties remains a matter of interpretation. That distinction is important. In sports, especially at the professional level, coaches often advocate aggressively for their players. That doesn't automatically mean every complaint is wrong, nor does it mean every complaint is right. Coaches are expected to protect their teams, and White's comments can be viewed through that lens. From an analytical perspective, there are really two separate discussions happening at the same time. The first discussion is about player safety. The second discussion is about officiating consistency. On the player safety side, many observers believe that the league should take every potentially dangerous play seriously regardless of who is involved. Whether it's Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Thomas, Angel Reese, Aya Wilson, Brianna Stewart, or any other player, fans generally want officials to identify reckless contact and enforce the rules consistently. Reports suggest that this is exactly what White was emphasizing in her post-game remarks. Her focus appeared to be less about a rivalry and more about what she considers a pattern of missed calls involving her star guard. On the officiating side, things become much more complicated. Officiating basketball is incredibly difficult. Officials must make split-second decisions in a fast-moving environment where physical contact occurs on nearly every possession. Sometimes plays that look obvious in slow motion appear very different in real time. That doesn't mean officials are beyond criticism. In fact, professional leagues constantly review officiating performance. But it does mean that disagreements are inevitable, especially in emotional games. What makes this situation stand out is that it involves Caitlin Clark. Since entering the WNBA, Clark has become one of the league's biggest attractions. Her games consistently draw attention from fans, media outlets, and casual viewers. Because of that visibility, Every controversial moment involving Clark tends to generate significantly more discussion than a similar incident involving many other players. That increased spotlight creates an interesting challenge. Some fans argue that Clark receives unusually physical defensive attention because opponents recognize her impact on the game. Others argue that the physicality she faces is simply normal professional basketball and not evidence of targeting. Both viewpoints have supporters. And honestly, that debate probably won't disappear anytime soon. According to recent discussions across social media and basketball communities, reactions have been sharply divided. Some fans believe White was absolutely justified in calling out the officials and demanding greater protection for Clark. Others believe the game was physical on both sides, and that the controversy is being amplified because of Clark's popularity. There's also another layer worth discussing. The Fever and Mercury have developed noticeable tension in recent meetings. Earlier matchups between the teams featured technical fouls, emotional exchanges, and heated moments. That context matters because players and coaches do not enter these games in a vacuum. Previous encounters can influence how physical games are played and how incidents are perceived. When a rivalry becomes emotional, every whistle, or lack of a whistle, feels more significant. That appears to be part of what happened here. For the Fever, the biggest concern moving forward is probably not the officiating controversy itself. It's Clark's health. Indiana has playoff ambitions, and Clark remains one of the central pieces of everything the team does offensively. Any injury concern involving her immediately becomes important for the franchise. Reports indicate that Clark has dealt with back-related issues at different points this season, which makes her status worth monitoring in the coming days. For the WNBA, the broader issue may be perception. The league has experienced tremendous growth in recent years, and much of that growth has come with increased attention on officiating, physical play, and star player treatment. Whether fans agree with White or not, discussions like this often become league-wide conversations rather than team-specific stories. That means every controversial call, or non-call, receives scrutiny from millions of viewers. And perhaps that's why this story has resonated beyond a single regular season game. Because at its core, it isn't just about one play. It's about how the league balances physical competition with player safety. It's about whether stars should be officiated differently, or exactly the same as everyone else. And it's about how much responsibility officials have when tensions are already running high between two teams. As for what happens next, the focus will likely shift toward Clark's health, the Fever's response, and whether the league addresses any of the concerns raised after the game. But the debate itself is far from over. Some viewers see a superstar who isn't receiving enough protection. Others see the normal physicality of professional basketball being magnified under a brighter spotlight. The truth may be somewhere in the middle. And that leaves us with a fascinating question. If the exact same plays had happened to a less famous player, would this story still be dominating basketball conversations today? Or does Caitlin Clark's star power change how everyone sees the game?